Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
No one will ever love you like we love you, Chaos Kids. I'm Naomi.
I'm Amber, and this is Crime, Wine, and Chaos. And that's so true.
So true. I mean, not that no one will love you or love you as much, but not like we love you. Not in the way that we do.
It's a special kind. It's a special
kind of love.
Oh,
Hi, sister.
Hi, sister. Hello.
Oh, what is going on? No, I don't, which is why I'm asking.
I've had a real piss poor attitude for about a week.
Why?
I don't, that's a great question. I'm ready for the holidays to be over.
Fair.
This year, it's been 0 stars, do not recommend for me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What? Tell me more. Why?
The vibe is just not good.
Well, I mean, Christmas, we talked about this. Christmas was canceled in Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of there's a lot going on in the world that is not celebratory.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Even still, like when you try to carve out your own little slice of heaven and shut that out, which I sometimes try to do, like I was unable to get there, And so I'm actually today is actually New Year's Eve day, and I'm just really excited for all of this to be behind me. I'm over it.
You're over it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've also I've talked about this a bit. I'm TikToking a lot, and, I don't want to be like a full Debbie Downer or anything, but the holidays, especially like the Christmas part of the holiday and what have you, it's been so over commercialized. And I'm not saying anything controversial here. I mean, everybody talks about this. I literally have a TikTok just about this. It's like capitalism ruins everything, and it ruined Christmas because,
right.
It's like they start bombarding us with all this quote unquote incentive and advertisement in order to get us to spend all our fucking money on stuff starting in October, and it completely steals any of the magic or joy out of what could be just a nice time you spend with your family, eating food and maybe sharing a few gifts. But no, they want us to go buy a car and put a big red bow on it like psychopaths without consulting our partner first. Right? It's what are we doing? What does this have to do with anything?
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
Right? So it's it just takes away from anyway. So I mean, I get it. And I think that you're not alone. I think a lot of people, even regardless of what's going on in the world, acutely right now, there's just not a lot of joy left in a holiday that wants to squeeze our bank accounts dry. I just,
yeah.
So I feel you, sister, and I'll be glad to have it behind us too, and just kind of move on and do some real work.
Yeah. What about you? What's new?
I mean, not a lot. It's been a pretty chill week off from work. I've had some visits with some of my favorites, which has been really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Just spending time with some of my favorite people. And yeah, I mean, not a lot. I booked a trip.
Ooh.
Last minute, just made a split decision. I'm going to be traveling to Washington, D.C. on the 11th of January so that I can be there on the 13th of January for a march on Washington in support of ceasefire. So they're making a big call. They want it to be the biggest march yet. And so I answered the call, and I actually have a lot of mutuals on TikTok who also have decided to go. So it'll be interesting to see how big it is, and also to meet some people in real life that I've been connecting to online.
Wow.
So,
well, I am proud and impressed. Be safe.
Of course. Of
yeah.
course.
Wow. Good for you, sister.
Yeah.
Good for you.
That's my big
Wow.
news. What are you drinking?
That's
Are you
huge.
drinking? It is Sunday
you.
morning, guys.
Thank you
So
for asking. I have my iced coffee that I did not spill all over the place this time. So
I approve.
far,
I
so good.
approve. Good,
So
good, good.
far,
Let's
so
keep
good.
it that way. Let's
Oh
keep
my
it that way.
God.
I've got my water per usual. I've already had all my coffee. Can you tell? Can you tell I've already had all my coffee?
I think you could benefit from another cup or two.
Just a cup or two.
Just a cup or two. Okay, you know what you just reminded me of? Sorry, my last quick little. I have to bring some sort of happy news to the table. So I did buy myself one of those fold-away treadmills. Remember when I texted you a while ago asking for your feedback? Yeah, I'm loving it. And I've decided, so I'm 5 days in now. And to pass the time while I'm on the treadmill, I have started Friends from episode 1. So I watched 2 episodes while I'm on the treadmill. And you just reminded me of like episode 3 when Chandler's trying to break up with Janice and he's had like 8 shots of espresso. Yeah. But I also just finished his book. And so, which was really good. And so it's just kind of, it's bittersweet to watch, but.
Okay.
Anyway,
well,
so,
that's awesome, sister. I love that to you. And you started before the New Year. So this is not a New Year's resolution.
Mm-hmm. What I've learned about myself as I get older, because, I've been like an avid, like walker for a long time, like walk. As I get older, I've noticed that I'm a fair weather walker.
100%.
That doesn't work in Seattle.
No, you don't walk as much.
I can't decide that I'm going to do fitness 2 months out of the year.
That's right.
So I needed a solution to that.
No,
so
you that's exactly why I got the one that I got. That's exactly why, because I wanted to walk and I knew that I wouldn't do it outside most of the time because I do not want to be rained on. I do not want wind in my face and sideways rain.
Nor do
pelting me. Yeah, 100%.
No.
100%. Yeah. Well, I love that for you, sister. I'm really happy for you.
All right.
So you mentioned in a text message to me this morning that your story is chilling.
Yeah.
Great.
It is.
So give it to me, huh?
Okay, great. I'm going to tell you about the murder of Morgan Huxley.
Okay.
So we are going to Neutral Bay, which is just a few miles outside of Sydney, Australia.
Oh, we're back in Australia again.
Yeah, it's a suburb of Sydney. It has like stunning views of the harbor, but there's also a lot of affordable apartments for sort of younger working folks, as well as like affordable suburb housing for families and really good schools.
Okay.
So on September 8th, 2013, a local businessman, Morgan Huxley, was enjoying a night out in a nearby town celebrating a friend's recent engagement.
Fun.
Around midnight, Morgan came back to his neighborhood in Neutral Bay with a couple of friends. I think they all took a cab together, and he was the first to sort of be dropped off. And he's trying to talk them into having one last drink at the Oaks Hotel, which has a pub inside of it. And this hotel was 600 feet from his apartment.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, no, we're ready to call it a night. So he went into the pub on his own to have a drink.
Okay.
So Morgan had a roommate, 24-year-old Jean Redmond. So she heard him come and go into his room a little after 1 a.m. And about 15 minutes later, she heard a knock on the front door. And she assumed it was one of Morgan's friends and that maybe one of them had forgotten something. So she didn't really think anything of it. She just went back to sleep.
Okay.
At around 2:30 a.m., she heard noises coming from Morgan's bedroom, like a thud and just some strange noises. So she got out of bed and she finds Morgan standing in his doorway, covered in blood, trying to hold himself up, and then he just collapses on the floor.
Oh my God.
Yeah. There's blood all over his t-shirt. His shorts are like pulled down and his genitals are exposed.
Okay.
She called an ambulance and they tried to resuscitate him, but he was pronounced dead at the scene.
Oh.
I can't even imagine waking up to that. That's a horror movie.
No. How old was Morgan again?
He was like in his late 20s. and so handsome. Not that that matters, but
Oh my
just looks like
God.
a nice guy. This is, I think, the second or third story where we've talked about roommates just unknowingly asleep in the next room
Waking
while a
up to like a
housemaid is
poor,
being murdered.
yes.
Oh God. So fucking scary.
It also reminded me a little bit of that young man at Mitsu who was murdered by that cop. And like
Yes.
his next door neighbor shared a
Yes.
wall with him and he heard like banging around and was like, keep it down. You
Oh
know,
my
like what's going
God.
on in there?
That was the one where they took a Polaroid of him deceased and took it.
Yes.
Oh God, that was horrifying. Oh, that was so sad. So an autopsy showed that Morgan had 28 separate stab wounds,
Jesus.
primarily in his back, neck, and shoulders. This is a trigger warning. The tip of the knife was found in his skull.
Oh no.
Yeah. So police speak to the employees at the pub who knew Morgan fairly well. They were able to get CCTV footage and they can see Morgan leaving the pub and walking down Military Road towards his apartment. And it shows him making it home safely.
Right.
And his roommate heard him get home safely.
Right.
But also on the footage, they see a younger man walking several paces behind Morgan. And like at a couple of points, like he kind of picks it up to like a light jog for like 2 or 3 steps, like in an effort, obviously, for Morgan to not get away from him, like out of his line of sight.
No. That's creepy.
Ugh. And this guy is wearing clothing that someone who worked in the back of the house at a restaurant would wear.
Oh.
So they want to know who this is. So they take that image and start visiting local restaurants and asking employees if they could identify this person. So when they visit the Sydney Cooking School, owner Brent Deverall says, "Oh, I know who that is. He works here." So it is Daniel Jack Kelso.
Okay.
He's a young man who lives in the area. He was described as nerdy, and he had recently gone into the cooking school looking for a job. He had previous restaurant experience, and the owner thought, even though he was like super dorky and awkward, he would give him a shot. And so he gave him the job.
Okay.
So on the night that Morgan was murdered, the cooking school had hosted a birthday party for a few young gals in their 20s. The party ended around 11 p.m. And after the guests left, owner Brett stayed behind and Daniel was there helping him clean. And Brett was kind of trying to encourage him. He's like, "Hey, there's like a group of beautiful young women your age right outside on the sidewalk. Why don't you take the rest of the night off? Let me finish up and like go mingle or whatever." Right.
Right.
But Daniel said that he wasn't into that sort of thing. So he finished helping the owner clean up and then headed out.
Maybe he's gay.
Yeah, they never actually, I mean, I think so. But yeah. So on September 24th, police bring Daniel in for questioning because they learned through additional footage and through talking to Daniel's employer that after he left work at the cooking school, the person working at the local convenience store also saw Morgan in there and Daniel in there before going to the pub.
Oh, so he made a stop at the convenience store before he went in to get that drink?
Yeah, and it's assumed that this is the very first time that Morgan and Daniel sort of crossed paths. Daniel said that Morgan was getting money from the ATM, and they had a brief conversation where Morgan asked him if he needed to use the ATM. Daniel was like, no. Morgan then leaves the store and heads to the Oaks Hotel pub.
Okay, but they don't know each other.
They don't know each other. Mm-mm.
Okay.
So he stays at the pub for about half an hour, and then the CCTV footage shows Daniel sort of loitering in the area while Morgan is inside having his drink.
Like outside?
Mm-hmm. So like he leaves the restaurant, they run into each other at the convenience store. Morgan leaves the convenience store, goes into the pub, and Daniel's just hanging around the outside of the pub. And then Morgan leaves.
The pub is like part of a hotel, right?
It's in like a hotel lobby.
The lobby of a hotel, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just hanging outside this hotel.
Yeah, just kind of up and down the sidewalk, just kind of loitering around until Yeah.
Morgan leaves.
Uh-huh.
And then he follows Morgan.
Yeah.
Fuck.
God, I know.
What the fuck?
Uh-huh. So when Morgan leaves and starts heading home, Daniel starts heading in that direction too. And he tells police, oh yeah, I remember seeing him at the crosswalk. Daniel says that he didn't know Morgan. He had never seen him before. And it's likely that as Morgan was walking home, that he was just walking home too. And like, it was just happenstance that they were walking in the same direction.
Just a coinky dink.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So police show Daniel the footage while they're interviewing him, and they ask him, why is he following Morgan? And why does he sometimes kind of pick it up to a run to keep up with him? And Daniel's like, I was just headed home too. And he was going fast because his mom always told him that if it gets too cold while he's walking home, to jog to keep his body temperature up. This guy. But also, this guy is like so he's one of those people that looks like he has no fucking soul. Like, it's chilling. The photos of him, the interview of him, I don't like it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So police ask him if he's cold, why is he not taking the fastest route home? Because the way he is headed takes him away from his house.
Good question.
And he says he's not sure, but he thinks he just wanted to check in at work one last time.
What? I'm not sure.
Not sure. Oh my God.
I've been wondering that myself. If you guys have any, ideas, I'd really appreciate some brainstorming around this, because I'm not sure. What do you guys think?
God, I'm not sure. Yeah. So then police ask him if he's ever been inside Morgan's apartment. And he says, no, I don't even know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're like, can you explain to us then why your DNA and fingerprints are in Morgan's house?
Oh
no. They say, sorry. They say, we've recovered unknown DNA and fingerprints. And would you be willing to provide DNA and fingerprints? And he says he's not comfortable with that.
No, I'm not comfortable with that.
Mm-mm.
Look, you know what? I will never fault somebody for that, because you know how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a sticky situation, because if you think it's going to clear you.
I mean, if you think it's going to clear you, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I'm just not a big fan of giving out my DNA.
Right.
Willingly to anyone.
The one thing, I will never do, guilty or not, is do a polygraph test.
Oh, 100%. No, fuck off with
never.
That witchcraft, your woo-woo.
Your sorcery.
Your woo-woo nonsense.
Because if you pass, you've somehow beat the system. And if you fail, you're guilty.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose. Yeah.
100%.
So anyway, so he's like, no, I'm not going to give you my stuff. So they release him because they have no choice but to let him go.
They can't make him give fingerprints or a DNA sample.
Not until they have a warrant. Yeah, exactly.
Yet.
2 days later, Daniel calls them and tells them that he wasn't actually telling the truth.
Oh.
This guy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not see this coming. I mean, I didn't see it coming that he would just call on his own and say this, but that he wasn't telling the truth. This is shocking.
Well, listen, I think that it's not uncommon for people to start oversharing when they're panicking.
Uh-huh.
Always invoke that first Miranda right.
Look, you guys,
just
don't talk to cops.
Don't talk.
You just don't talk to cops ever.
Mm-mm.
You do never say a word to a cop. Ever.
But also, when I say that this guy is chilling, in my armchair psychologist expert, he looks like a fucking psychopath, and I wouldn't be probably thought he was going to outsmart them. Thought
we're basically FBI profilers, so you would know.
It's true though. Okay, so they arrange another meeting with him. They meet Daniel in a parking lot of a local shopping center. Don't know
What?
really. I'm not really sure. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Okay.
And Daniel
Neutral
tells
ground, I guess. I don't.
maybe so he feels less like it's an interrogation and more loosey
Just a
goosey.
casual conversation between frenzies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he tells them he's actually, I have been inside Morgan's apartment.
Oh, now
Mhm.
that I thought about it for a couple of days,
Yeah.
I don't know this guy at all. Never seen him before, but I have been inside his apartment.
Right. And he's like, I did see a lady there as I was leaving. And so she probably killed him.
But she didn't see anyone except for Morgan.
No, but also that just gives me the chills because he might have still been in there when she
came out of her room.
Uh-huh.
Fuck that.
I know. Ugh.
I hate it.
I hate it too. I hate it too. So she did it. So he's arrested and taken, down to the station. And at this point, he refuses to answer any more questions. And again, they don't have enough to hold him. And once again, he's free to leave.
They don't have enough to hold him. But at that point, if they arrested him and brought him in, they got his fingerprints, right? At least.
I believe so. Yes, because they're able. So they have to get a search warrant. They get a search warrant for his home as well as the cooking school.
Uh-huh.
At the cooking school, with the help of Brett, they're able to determine that there is a knife missing from the kitchen.
Okay.
After an exhaustive search, though, the knife was never located.
Mm-hmm.
At his home, they collect clothing along with the bag that they could see him carrying in the CCTV footage. This is the same bag that he had on him in his first interview. It's like a little small backpack. And police are able to positively ID Morgan's blood on that bag.
Yep.
This guy comes in.
Stab somebody 28 times and not get blood fucking everywhere.
But he comes in to that first interview with the bag that has Morgan's blood on it.
I mean, it's like that kid. It's like that kid that killed the gal in, was it Ole Miss? Where he was supposed to come in for an interview, but he went on the run instead. And when they catch him at that gas station, he's got like blood on the shoes. Like his shoes still have blood from shooting her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we doing?
Yes.
Burn everything, you guys. God. All this information is readily available. Just turn on the ID channel. Like, what are we doing?
No shit. No shit.
I mean, I'm glad that they're dumb, but still, it's like.
Yeah. So they find Morgan's DNA in Daniel's bedroom and on the backpack. And so then they are able to collect Daniel's DNA with a warrant, and they find his DNA on Morgan's bedroom door and on his penis.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. When Daniel is confronted with this evidence, he tells investigators that he and Morgan had consensual sex. But in speaking with everyone who knew Morgan really well, they all said he was very much heterosexual and doubted that that was even a possibility.
Okay.
So at this time, they only have evidence that Daniel was in Morgan's home, but no solid evidence that he killed him.
Even though there's blood on the backpack.
The roommate did it.
You guys can't see. I'm making a face at Amber right now.
They also notice that they have no DNA or fingerprint evidence of Daniel's on Morgan's front door, and they're trying to figure out how or why, like how he got out without
leaving anything behind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible he just like put his hand up in his t-shirt and like, Yeah. Or who knows? I think it's a first floor apartment. He could have gone out. Who knows? Right.
I don't know. So anyway, by October, a month after Morgan's murder, Daniel is arrested again and taken to the Sydney police station. He declines to be interviewed again, but this time he was charged with the murder of Morgan. They continue to investigate, and they're able to collect notes from 2 different mental health providers that had previously treated Daniel. And in both cases, Daniel had talked about his intrusive thoughts that he had about following a stranger home and stabbing him to death.
Oh, well, that's weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then they try to submit a insanity defense, and he meets with a court-appointed psychologist several times prior to trial, and it was determined that he knew exactly what he was doing at the time of the murder and that he was fit to stand trial.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. He enters.
Just because you're a sociopath doesn't mean that you're not fully aware and cognizant of what you're doing. The decisions you're making.
Wish that I had taken. I'm not familiar with obviously Australian law, but it just the arrest and then release and arrest and then release was odd to me. Mm-hmm. Although in the U.S. you can arrest based off a hunch, and then a judge has 48 hours to establish probable cause, and if it's not established, they have to be released.
Right.
So, I'm not really sure I'm not sure what was the final thing that was like, okay, he can. It's interesting. Anyway, so he goes to trial in March of 2015, and he takes a stand in his own defense, like a true psycho. Of course he does.
I mean, this is how you know. This is how you always know.
Yeah. He tried to tell the jury the same version that he told the police, which was that he was invited in. It was consensual sex. The blonde gal killed him, but they're not buying it. The trial lasted 2 weeks, and they returned a verdict of guilty, and he was sentenced to a minimum of 30 years in prison. So here's a little bit about Morgan. This is from the Sydney Morning Herald article. Quote, when he was a little boy, Morgan Huxley had a habit of walking around the tables in daycare, picking up the other kids' dirty dishes and taking them to the kitchen.
So cute.
He would even try to do this in restaurants as a little kid.
Oh my God.
As a little boy, he formed friendships that would last into his adulthood, later falling in love with his primary school crush, with whom he'd have a long-term relationship. And as fate would have it, he'd spend the final evening of his life with his best mate, Chris, whom he'd known since their elementary school days.
Oh.
He often joked to his friends that one day he'd end up in a nursing home with all his mates in slippers and dressing gowns. 3 of his former primary school teachers attended his funeral. I know. In his mid-20s, his passion for the water became so strong that his mom bought him his first tinny. Do you know what that is?
No, did you look it up?
I'm going to. What's a tinny? What? I was actually just banking on you knowing it because you know everything.
What?
You know, just like a lot of random stuff.
It's like an aluminum motorboat.
Okay, great. So he had a tinny. After studying at TAFE and spending a year in ocean engineering in Lancaster in 2009, he started his own business, Huxley Marine, building jetties and boat sheds, mostly around Birch Grove area, which is pretty impressive. Yeah. He was really close to his mom. His mom is a children's book illustrator, and he would go home, like while he was waiting for the tide to change, he'd often pop into his mom's house. She'd be working in front of the easel. He would pick her up, spin her around, say, "I love you, Mom." Then he'd stand back, tell her that the perspective was wrong, go inside, help himself to some leftovers. And every time she'd be like, "God damn it, he's right." And she'd redraw it. And then he'd leave. Yeah. So that was Morgan. He just sounded like so much fun, so fucking smart, jovial. Yeah, that is the murder of Morgan Huxley. I just think it's one of those rare, like total stranger happenstance 10-second exchange at a convenience store.
It is chilling. It is chilling. I just keep thinking, like, what was Morgan doing, like letting this stranger in? Because it sounds like he let him in and they went into his bedroom.
I'm not nobody knows that but Daniel. I mean, I don't know. It could have been like, can I use your phone? Or I mean, I don't know. Morgan seems like so nice that maybe, and who
Maybe.
knows how much of a deep sleep Jean was in. Maybe as soon as Morgan opened the door, I mean, Daniel was obviously armed. Maybe he forced his way
Maybe the
in.
struggle started as soon as he got in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. But you'd think that then there would be like evidence of that outside of Morgan's room.
Yeah. There was one article too where it said, like, there was a lot of conflicting. I mean, I think the only person who holds information is Jean, who is traumatized and I think not talking a lot. And then Daniel, who's just fucking psycho. But
Right.
I think she had said too previously, like when Morgan got home the first time, she had popped earbuds in, like to try and get back to sleep. So I don't know. It's so chilling though. This guy is just creepy. Fucking creepy.
That's just
Watching CCTV footage of being followed. Just,
creepy as fuck, dude.
600 feet from his home.
I can't.
You know?
And you got to wonder, like, why all of a sudden, like that night, Daniel decided to follow through on this.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, fantasy that he had.
Well, and if he's working at that cooking school along that strip, maybe he had seen Morgan quite a few times before. Maybe he had his eye on him for a while. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Man, sister.
I hate it.
Yeah, you and me both. Hate that. Hate that for us. Hate that for Morgan, his mom, his roommate, all of them, all of his friends. Ugh.
Oh.
Another situation of like friends since elementary school, which I just spent some time with 3 friends from elementary school the other night.
You have more than one friend from elementary school?
Well, yeah. I do actually.
I'm doing friendship wrong.
It's kind of crazy. I was out on Thursday night and it was like me and Courtney, who I've known since the first day of kindergarten, and then a couple of 3 other gals, and 2 of those other gals I've also known basically since kindergarten, and the other one I've known since high school.
Wow.
Maybe junior high.
Wow. That's incredible.
It is incredible. It's kind of unbelievable, especially because like I was telling Courtney, like it's not like we grew up in like a small town. Right. Where like nobody leaves town and everybody goes to like one school, and you know what I mean? It's not like that. Like we grew up in a suburb, but like in, adjacent to a city, like we've all gone off and lived our lives, but we're still, it's kind of crazy. Although I will say that like 2 of the gals, their parents still live next door to each other, not far from where you and I grew up. Like, so like neighborhood wise, there's still some cohesion there, but they grew up down on Lake Washington, down Arrowhead Point Drive.
Yeah.
School. Anyway, well, let me tell you about some chaos, sister.
Okay. Tell me.
This one is, you're not going to like it.
Okay, great.
So I'm going to tell you about Maurice Domatz.
Okay.
Doc was his nickname. So Doc was born June 24th, 1906 in Blue Rapids, Kansas. He married Myrtle Goodyear in 1930, I think. Some of this stuff is like hard to corroborate. So grain of salt, but this is essentially his story. Okay. Like his life. They moved to Longmont, Colorado at some point. They had 1 child, Martha Ann. So Doc had started his higher education at Hastings College in Hastings, Nebraska. Then he moved on to Denver Bible College. He received a degree from the Presbyterian Theological Seminary in Omaha, Nebraska. He studied at the National Bible College of Wichita in Kansas and got a master's degree at the University of Denver, and later another degree from Rockmont College in Denver. So Doc did a lot of school.
Damn, I was going to say smarty.
Smarty pants.
Mhm.
He worked as the associate editor and then the editor of Grace and Truth magazine from 1923 to 1948. He was editor of the Rockmont Review from 1950 to 1955 and was a contributing editor at Christian Victory magazine from 1948 until 1981. He served on the Longmont Chamber of Commerce, was the Denver Bible College Board of Trustees chairperson from 1943 to 1947, and was part of the Rockmont College Alumni Association from 1955 to 1958. So Doc was a minister. He was clearly a very religious man. Almost all of his studies were in like theology.
Mhm.
He also authored a bunch of books, including Dead at the Top, Focal Points of Christian History, Burden Bearing, Trouble Transformed, Mystery of Godliness, along with numerous articles in leading religious periodicals.
Okay.
One of the videos that I watched said that Doc had been a minister at a church and then was the dean of a college. And then at that point was like a traveling minister. I couldn't find definitive information on this part. He was clearly steeped in religion and religious studies, and he wrote extensively on the topic, and he was described as a fire and brimstone type.
Okay.
But he was also a very nice man.
Okay.
So I don't know what exactly it means to be a traveling minister, except or maybe he must have at some point after not having his own congregation, maybe he goes and like guest preachers.
I don't think I know what it means to be a fire and brimstone type. What does that mean?
Fire and brimstone type is very like hell is real, repent or go to hell, like the wrath of God will come down upon you.
Oh, okay.
That's what fire and brimstone means. I don't know if I would say fully like evangelical exactly, but it's very like hardcore Christian.
Okay.
We know we believe in end times and that kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
So it's April of 1981. Doc is 75 years old. He had a blood disorder of some sort and severe arthritis, which limited his ability to walk much on his own. It was reported in a couple of places that it was especially his knees that were really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And Doc was like super into gems and crystals. He was a rock hound, you know? Like
as just
like
to collect?
Yeah, like he liked to go out into the woods, like near his home in Colorado and hunt for crystals and rocks and things.
Okay. My first thought was
a rock hound.
I was thinking like actual crystal energy. And I was like, that sounds very contradictory to being
No. More like I want to go like hunting and digging and find cool rocks and crystals and things, which I've known people that are like this. There's places up in like the Cascades, like not far off of like 90 and North Bend and stuff that you can go and like go off like Forest Service roads and like go looking for different crystals and things.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, totally. And because of his age and his conditions, he had a friend who would go out with him to help him get around. This guy, David McSherry. So on April 29th, Doc and David headed out for some topaz hunting.
That's my birthstone.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, they drove up to Devil's Head in the Pike National Forest, which is very close to Topaz Point, where there is a bunch of topaz to be found, as the name suggests, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Pike National Forest is located in the Front Range of Colorado, west of Colorado Springs, including Pikes Peak, and it's named after American explorer Zebulon Pike. This range is in the south section of the Rocky Mountains.
Okay.
The forest itself encompasses over 1 million acres within Clear Creek, Teller, Park, Jefferson, Douglas, and El Paso counties. So it covers 5 or 6 counties. Rampart Range Road is about 38 miles long, and it's an unpaved road that travels through the forested crest of the Rampart Range through this particular section of Pike National Forest. And this gravel road has spectacular views of Pikes Peak, the prairie, the Front Range, and the Tarryall Mountains.
Wow.
It offers camping, mountain biking, all that kind of stuff goes on out there, right? And one of Colorado's last fire lookouts is on top of Devil's Head. The Civil Conservation Corps built the road during the Great Depression in the 1930s. The Lookout Tower is a historic landmark built in 1912, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places. The first woman fire ranger, Helen Rowe, worked there from 1919 to 1921, and she reported 16 fires on her watch.
Okay.
On top of the Lookout Tower is a 100-mile panoramic view in every direction. To the south, there is Pikes Peak. To the west, you can see the Continental Divide. To the north, you can see the Boulder Flatirons and Rocky Mountain National Park. And to the east, you can see Eagle Mountain and Larkspur. So Topaz Point has a lookout, and it has like a big flat dirt parking area that's really open, right? And it has like a spectacular, like on one side, it's like a spectacular 180-degree view of the national park, right? You're like high up looking out over, you know, the western mountainous beauty of fucking, you know, the United States of America. And we're talking like, yeah, Western state mountain range shit. And then there's woods surrounding the parking area, but there's also like some kind of grassy areas with picnic benches and stuff. So it's like a pretty big open area with some like around the edge of the parking lot, there's like patches of grass and picnic benches and stuff. And then just beyond that, there's forest. You're kind of, I mean, you're in the forest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after they park, David helps Doc make his way like just into the woods to find a spot. Right?
Okay.
I mean, Doc can't really walk very well. He needs David's help just to like walk there. So they don't go real far into the woods because Doc can't. Right?
Right.
But I think where they went, the direction they went, it was kind of like downhill from the parking lot, right? Into the woods. So the typical way they would do this is that they would get Doc situated somewhere, right? And then David would wander off and go look in other areas on his own. But David wouldn't go very far. He's not like hiking away or anything. So Doc's in a spot, a small sandy pit not far from the Rampart Range Road itself. And David leaves Doc and starts digging in his own spot, but he's only about 50 yards away. They're close enough to each other that they could hear each other, like they could like call to each other.
Is he just like sitting in a chair, just sitting there? Or like,
no, he's like sitting on the ground or on a rock. He's like digging. He's like digging in like a kind of sandy-ish pit kind of thing, right? Like he's found a spot that's like clear enough of underbrush and stuff between trees that he can like just dig in the dirt or the sand or whatever's there, right? And so about 2 hours goes by. It's about noon. They've both found some topaz in their respective digging spots. They get together and they have lunch. They rest. They eat. They chat about an hour. Then they relocate. It's like, let's go find some new spots. So David helps Doc move to a new spot. I don't think it's very far from his first spot, right? Because again, Doc is old. He's got bad knees. He's not like hiking anywhere. So they relocate him to a new spot. And then David goes off to find his own new spot. Again, he's probably not more than 50 or 100 yards from Doc. And they each start digging in their new locations.
Okay.
After they've both been at it for a couple more hours, it's around 3 p.m., 2:30 to 3 p.m. David goes over to Doc to let him know, hey, like it's time to collect our things and head home. And then David goes back to the spot that he'd been digging in, and he gathers up his tools and his bag of rocks and all that stuff. And maybe 15 minutes goes by, max. Some places it said 15 minutes. Some places it says a few minutes. So it's not very long, 5 to 15 minutes, right? And then David works his way back to Doc to help Doc walk back to the car. And Doc is gone.
Okay, so from when when he decided it was time to wrap it up, he already went and checked in with Doc, said, let's wrap it up, went back to his spot. So he just saw him 15 minutes ago. Okay.
A max of 15 minutes.
Okay.
Maybe less. Additionally, none of Doc's stuff was there either.
All his tools have been collected and...
all his tools and belongings are gone. Not a trace of Doc or his stuff. There was no sign of a struggle. There's no blood anywhere to indicate maybe an animal had been involved. There's no drag marks. There's the only thing there is the spot where Doc had been digging. So David's shocked, thinking, what, did Doc like work his way up the hill by himself to the parking lot? Like, he didn't think that Doc could even do that.
Right.
But he figured, well, that must be what happened. So David goes up the hill to the parking lot and goes to the car expecting to find Doc, but he doesn't find Doc.
What?
So David waits around at the car for a bit. He honks the horn a few times, still getting nothing. Then he spends like a good 40 minutes or so walking kind of up and down Rampart Range Road and, you know, walking a bit into the forest along the way, like searching like for any sign of Doc. And he finds nothing. Like, there is just nothing. And he's also at this point through all this has not seen or heard any cars coming or going from the area this entire time.
Right. What?
I think it's like a Wednesday. This all happened on a Wednesday, you know, like a Wednesday during the day. Because Doc's an old man. He's retired, whatever. Like, they don't have to work on a Wednesday. I don't know how old David is, but eventually a car does show up and David flags the car down. And I'm assuming like he sends this car off to go call someone while he stays at the car at the parking lot in case Doc shows up.
Right.
Right. So a deputy arrives and then the deputy does all the same kind of searching that David had already just done, right? Like, he looks around, he walks up and down the road, he looks, you know, just a little bit into the woods along the way. Nothing. So then the sheriff's department finally calls in search and rescue. One article said it was close to 11 p.m. that night by the time like search and rescue was fully like assembled and on site. But they did search some that night. And then the next day, more county teams joined the search along with around 80 volunteers. I think they said something like all told, like 200 people searched over 5 days of grid searches for Doc. They were even using a helicopter. They brought in search dogs. The dogs never picked up Doc's scent beyond the spot where he was sitting.
This is like a fire in the sky situation?
This is my last word.
What? What was that? What was that? No. It just happened.
Okay.
So
I hate it.
Doc
Keep going.
I know Doc was known to get chest pains if he walked too much and he was not wearing enough warm clothing to guard against the elements in the mountains overnight. He had on a maroon plaid flannel shirt, a pair of old bib overalls, brown ankle-high work boots, and a white baseball cap. That's what he had with him.
And I feel like a white baseball cap would be easy to spot, especially if you have helicopters going overhead through like the green.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
By July of 1981, so, 3 months later, maybe, Doc's wife, Myrtle, would write to the governor of Colorado asking for further and deeper investigation into her husband's disappearance. She was certain that Doc had been met with foul play, possibly carried off by someone, and that it warranted more scrutiny. But nothing more was ever discovered. And the governor's response to her was basically like, there's nothing more that we can do. And so in 1990, 9 years after his disappearance, Doc was declared deceased.
Oh.
A couple of days after the search ended, a headline was published in a local paper that Doc's family believed that he was taken by God.
That's what yeah, it was divine intervention. Do we trust this David friend? Did he have anything to gain from?
No, he did not have anything to gain. There was no reason not to trust David. Myrtle even said that she didn't believe Doc got lost because he knew every inch of that place that he was digging in.
Yeah.
And like, what other explanation is there? This is where we get into, because there's debate around this, right? Well, later on, the police would say it's possible that he was kidnapped, but Myrtle was like, he was wearing like old overalls and a flannel. Like, he's clearly not a wealthy person. If it was kidnapping, there would be ransom. Like that never happened. Right. Yeah, David was, a trusted family friend. And also, like, what would David had done with him?
Right. Was there any indication that he was starting to sort of lose his mental capacity in any way?
No. There was, the family said, well, maybe he was done and he decided to just wander off into the woods or whatever on his own and like take his own life or whatever. But still, I mean, he should have been found. He couldn't have gone very far.
No.
In his condition. He was 75 years old with like riddled with arthritis and chest pains when he walked too much and like a blood disorder. He was not, 5 to 15 minutes max. How far can an old man get away in 5 to 15 minutes?
I know that combined with like no scent makes me think that he got in a car.
But he would have had to make it up to the road, which would have left a trail of a scent.
They think that God took him.
So this is where we get into the weirder stuff because Doc's case is definitely on the list of the missing 411 people.
Oh.
David Politis, kooky as he may be, he might be onto something. I mean, not the part where he clearly believes that not only is Sasquatch is real, which is true, but also that Sasquatch are interdimensional beings. That's where he loses me. But there is certainly a large number of cases of people going missing in the U.S. national parks that have no good explanation, like Doc. David Politis has mapped these places out, like all these missing people out on a map, and he's identified a number of cluster areas of these missing people. And one of them is in and around the Devil's Head area where Doc went missing.
Does that have anything to do with how that area got its name?
Well, native legends say that Devil's Head is inhabited by evil spirits and that it's some kind of cursed or spiritually dangerous place.
Okay.
But I don't know exactly how it got its name. I went digging. I could not find a lot of good information on like the legends of that place. And I didn't have time to go digging into David Politis's documentaries to find the part, because I remember him talking about multiple missing person cases that just did not have good explanations like around this particular area. Because I've seen one of his documentaries where he talks about that. And there are like more than just Doc have gone missing, kind of generally speaking, in that area that like just don't make fucking sense.
Are there any old like mine holes that he could have fallen into, or
not in that area? No.
God.
No. But even then, it would have had to have been super close to where he was because there was no scent of him for the dogs to pick up beyond the spot where he was sitting.
It's so weird.
He just vanished without a trace.
And in that tiny window of time, not during the
time. Yes.
Not during the time where it had been hours since they interacted, but just, which is so weird.
Yes.
I hate it.
I know. It's creepy.
It's really creepy.
No.
So that's it.
I hate it.
That's the disappearance of Doc Domatz, Maurice Doc Domatz.
I hate it. Poor Doc.
I know.
And then, like, logistically, too, if you have to wait that long stretch of time to declare somebody dead, like,
oh God, right? That's
hard. But then also, like, who knows what their circumstances were as far as like
financially?
Yeah. Like, what do you even do?
I mean, brutal. It's not like he walked off and like started a new life somewhere.
No,
you know,
no, that ship had sailed at that age, I would imagine.
Yeah. And like, this was a guy who, I mean, he was on the Chamber of Commerce in Longmont. Like he lived there most of his life, raised his family, like, right. Like preached there, worshiped there. Like one of the other videos I watched, they were talking about how like, you know, they were like really connected in their community. They had lots of friends. He was very well liked.
God.
So I mean, there
hate
was
it.
one theory that like David did something to him to like steal his topaz or something, but it's like,
What?
there's plenty of it. They go up there all the time and like dig it up. There's no reason to like
Steal his topaz that he acquired while sitting there digging. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
he has a limited opportunity to collect even a portion of what David can collect. And
Right.
well, that's odd. Yeah.
That doesn't make that. See, that doesn't make any sense. So there's like,
Mhm.
and then again, like, what other reason would David have for like, murdering and burying quickly, like an old man that he was friends with that he liked to go like rock hunting with? Like, where is their motive in that?
Right.
What could he possibly gain from that? Like, why? Why would he even? By all accounts, like, Doc wasn't going to be here much longer anyway.
Yeah, it is so bizarre. You like to bring these to the table that just makes me really spooked out. And yeah. God, I hate it.
Sis. There it is, sis. I think that's it. I think we did it.
God damn it. Thanks for that.
You're so welcome. Sister, do we have anything for the good of the order? Did we get any new Chaos Kids Club members since our
Not
last
this
recording?
time, but go sign up. Go sign up if you want some bonus content. If you want to join us for a virtual wine night, we need to send that out.
I know we need to schedule it. We need to schedule
God
it.
damn it. Listen. Linda, listen. We'll get there. We will get there.
Patreon.com/crime, wine, and chaos. $5 a month. You get an extra episode every month. We get to do virtual wine night, and
yeah,
it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
It is good stuff.
And we're on all the things. We're on the places.
She malfunctioned on the socials. It's all right. I got your back, Jack. We
formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're on the TikTok. You can find us there. And we're on all the streaming platforms. Hey, and if you're listening to us on an Apple product, you can go write an actual review.
That would be amazing. We love a review.
We love that. And, if you have anything you want us to talk about, if you have a story suggestion, if you have some feedback for us, if you just want to say, hey, and tell us what you think. We love an email, and you can get a hold of us at crimewineandchaos@gmail.com. You send those love letters to Amber and the hate mail to me. I mean, they go to the same place, but we split up. We divide and conquer on that. So
it's true.
Sister, I love you.
Love you so much.
And that was truly
so
chaotic.
Bye.
Bye.
Crime, Wine, and Chaos is produced by 8th Direction Records. Artwork by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Paul Abner. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon page at crimewineandchaos.com/Patreon. Cheers. So they also obviously collect